All right, Wildcats, it's Mr. Neff here, and just reminding you in our last social studies class, we learned all about what the world was like in the 1400s, how in the Americas there was big empires such as the Aztec and Inca Empire. In Europe, they had monarchs with kings and queens and kingdoms. In Africa, they had more empires, and they loved to trade with one another. In Asia, they were out exploring and learning more about the world. They were a little bit more advanced than some of the other cultures around the world. So that was just a bit of what we learned last time. Well, today we're learning about the background to European exploration because it was later on in the 1400s and early 1500s that people became more and more curious about what the rest of the world was like outside of their own country. So we're going to start, you can see in the timeline here, we're right around the year 1475. As you read, look for the sequence of events that led to new trade routes. Our big idea is the Portuguese, which were people from Portugal, wanted to find a water route to Asia. During the Renaissance, the overland trade routes between Europe and Asia became dangerous because of fighting between religious groups in Europe and Asia. As a result, European merchants and explorers looked for less risky ways to reach Asia. This led to the development of better ways of travel and provided new opportunities for European merchants and explorers. You're probably thinking, oh yeah, Marco Polo and his father and uncle, they were some of the first European merchants to actually travel all the way overland to Europe. Remember, those overland routes now started to become dangerous because of fighting. An end to the East-West trade. For hundreds of years, Europeans carried on a busy trade with people from Asia. To get goods from China and other places in Asia, merchants set off on the ancient Silk Road. The Silk Road, also known as the Silk Route, was not really a road, but a group of overland trade routes between China and Italy. The Silk Road stretched over the mountains and deserts of Asia, so travel was often difficult and slow. Instead of going all the way to the Far East, as the Europeans called Asia, most European merchants traveled only part of the way. They went to trading cities in North Africa and in Southwest Asia, which the Europeans called the Middle East. The major trading cities included Alexandria, which was in North Africa, and Baghdad and Constantinople in Southwest Asia. There, European merchants exchanged their goods for goods that had been brought there from Asia. So they didn't have to go all the way. They could just go to these trading cities and exchange goods that they wanted from Asia. The Asian goods that Europeans mostly wanted included gold, jewels, silks, perfumes, and spices. Spices such as pepper, cloves, cinnamon, and nutmeg were used to help add flavor to food and keep it fresh. Asian goods were usually expensive because Europeans could not easily get them. Remember, when something is hard to get, the price oftentimes goes up. Just like in our pandemic with toilet paper, when we became hard to get toilet paper, the prices might have went up. Europeans, however, were willing to pay high prices to have these Asian goods. As a result, merchants made huge profits from selling these goods. A profit is money that's left over after the goods and the cost of getting them have been paid for. European merchants continued to enjoy these huge profits until 1453. That's when trade with Asia was suddenly stopped. In that year, the Turks, a people from a land called the Ottoman Empire in the Middle East, captured the important trading city of Constantinople. This gave the Turks control of the Middle East, and they closed the trade routes to Asia. Now there was no way for Europeans to get Asian goods. At this time, I'd like you to stop the video. And once you stop the video, you are going to write down on your study guide the answer to the question, who were the Turks and what did they do? Write down that they were a people from the Ottoman Empire and that they captured and closed Constantinople. This map shows the Ottoman Empire. Go ahead and pause the video now to write that down on your study guide. Portugal, leading the way. By the time the city of Constantinople was captured, Portugal's monarch, King John I, had already decided to spend as much money as needed to find a new route to Asia. King John asked his son Henry to direct the country's search for a water route to Asia. Prince Henry soon set up a school for training sailors in navigation. With navigation is the skill of controlling the course of a ship. Again, I see words that are in red. Who was Prince Henry? On the back of your study guide, you should see Prince Henry the Navigator, write down that he set up a school to train sailors in navigation. Go ahead and pause the video now to write that down. Prince Henry started his school at Sagres. It's a town on the southwestern tip of Europe. There, at his school, he brought together sailors and shipbuilders, cartographers, or map makers. The cartographers drew up new and more accurate maps. Many were based on information from the journals of earlier travelers, possibly such as Marco Polo. Prince Henry also hired people who helped improve two important navigational tools, the compass and an instrument called the astrolabe. There's a picture of the astrolabe right here. An astrolabe is an instrument that's used to calculate the position of the sun, moon, and stars. The astrolabe helps sailors find their location by using the position of the sun or the North Star. Sailors at Prince Henry's school learned how to sail a new kind of ship called the caravel. This ship used square or triangular sails to travel long distances quickly. It also was able to survive heavy seas. Since the caravel was easier to sail and could carry more cargo than other types of ships, it was the preferred ship for ocean exploration. So as you can tell, at Prince Henry's School of Navigation, all their teamwork together helped to improve navigation, so it wouldn't be long until Portugal could find a water route to Asia. Prince Henry believed that the most direct way to get to Asia from Europe would be by sea, to go south around Asia. So right here is Portugal, and you can see he thought that the best way to get there would be to go around Africa all the way to Asia, and then sail across the Indian Ocean until they got to India. Under his direction, dozens of Portuguese ships made their way down the African coast. Altogether, Henry organized more than 50 different voyages, but he didn't go on any of them himself. For that reason, he earned the nickname as the Prince who stayed at home. Oh, I'm sorry, not the Prince who stayed at home, the explorer who stayed at home. He was known as the explorer that stayed at home. It's not much of an explorer, one who stays at home. As the Portuguese explored the western coast of Africa, they found new markets where they could trade European goods for things like nuts, fruit, and gold. But they also discovered that they could trade their goods for slaves. Like Native Americans and other groups throughout history, Africans had long used their prisoners of war as slaves. Traders from Portugal saw that they could make money by buying slaves in Africa and taking them to Europe to be sold as servants. By 1460, Portuguese traders were buying about 800 slaves from African traders each year. That started the horrible, horrible practice. Well, it didn't start, but it continued the horrible, horrible practice of the slave trade. And it was later on in the 16 and 1700s that thousands and thousands of slaves every year were being traded in Africa and brought to all places around the world, including the American colonies. The next section is called Dioce and Agama. After Prince Henry's death, the Portuguese continued to explore the west coast of Africa. King John II of Portugal ordered Bartholomew Dias to sail to the southern tip of Africa. The king wanted to know for sure that ships could actually reach Asia by sailing around Africa. Earlier expeditions or journeys of exploration had failed because of the rough ocean currents along the southern coast of Africa. You can see in the picture, it's very treacherous. There's lots of storms that come in and out of the southern tip of Africa. Dias commanded a fleet of 3 ships. In 1488, the ships reached the southern tip of Africa. A storm actually blew them further out to sea. When the winds finally died down and the sky cleared, Dias realized that the storm had blown the ship around to the east coast of the continent. He and his crew had become the first Europeans to sail around the southern tip of Africa. On their way back, well, they didn't actually reach India or Asia, but on their way back to Portugal around the tip of Africa, Dias sighted what is now called the Cape of Good Hope. Here is some signs that exist today where that cape is. Some historians believe that Dioce originally named it the Cape of Storms, but that King John later renamed it the Cape of Good Hope. To King John, the discovery of this cape meant that a sea route to India would soon be found. Almost 10 years later, Vasco de Gama reached India. He sailed around the Cape of Good Hope with 4 ships. He brought back to Portugal things like perfumes, silk, spices, and other goods that he had traded for in India. This is a picture of de Gama. The expedition returned to Lisbon, which is Portugal's capital, in September of 1499. Many of de Gama's crew, however, did not survive the long voyage. Of the 170 crew members who started the voyage, only 55 lived to return home. But as a reward for his successful expedition, Vasco da Gama was given the title Admiral of the Sea of India. His voyage opened the Cape route to India and led to the regular sailing of ships between Europe and Asia. The trade that resulted helped Portugal become wealthier and more powerful. It also spread Portuguese influence and culture to places like Africa and Asia. Portugal quickly became one of the most important trading powers in the Indian Ocean. So notice, it was because they found a water route to Asia that Portugal became wealthy and rich and more powerful. Think about other European countries like Spain or Italy or England. They're going to become jealous of Portugal. They're going to start to learn about all the powerful riches and wealth that Portugal has claimed because they found a water route to Asia. That is going to lead to them wanting to find also a water route to Asia. Who was Ahmad ibn Majid? Ahmad ibn Majid was born in what is today the United Arab Emirates. He learned navigational skills, geography, astronomy, and Arabic literature at a very early age. In 1498, Majid helped Vasco da Gama sail around the Cape of Good Hope and on to India. He is considered by many to be a great contributor to the study of navigation. Here is a picture of Ahmad ibn Majid. You can see that this is in red on the back of your study guide. Please find his name, Ahmad ibn Majid, and write down that he was an explorer who helped Vasco da Gama sail around the Cape of Good Hope and reach India. You can pause the video now to write that down. I hope that you learned a little bit about the background to European exploration, how the Turks capturing Constantinople and closing it down led to European countries wanting to find faster water routes to Asia, how Portugal was that European country that was the first to find a water route to Asia. I hope that you learned a little bit about some early explorers and their attempts to sail around Africa and on to India, including Bartholomew Dias, Vasco da Gama, and Ahmad ibn Majid. Thanks for listening.